Welcome to the FML podcast, the podcast on a mission to uncover actionable insights, explore the latest trends, and to catalyze your fintech's growth. Join Growth Gorilla's founder and managing director, Shamir Sajdev, and some of fintech's hardest-hitting marketers and leaders.
Welcome everyone to today's episode of the FML podcast. Today we're joined by Raquel Soares, Director of Marketing and Communications at Edenred Payment Solutions. Raquel, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Could you just share a little bit about yourself and your journey so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Raquel Soares. I am a Director of Marketing and Communications at Edenred Payment Solutions. I've been in sort of marketing basically for my whole career. I started out in consumer marketing, initially working for Philips, the electronics company, but then eventually found my way into tech. And I worked in Germany for many, many years. So that was sort of the place that I started my marketing career, and then eventually moved to the UK and discovered the startup environment. And I worked at a company called Stack Overflow for almost 4 years, doing a lot of developer marketing, and then eventually got into fintech after I joined GoCardless, which is a payments company headquartered in London. And then now I am here at Edenred Payment Solutions, also another fintech based in London.
For everyone listening, can you tell us a little bit more about Edenred, who they are, what they do?
It's important to understand a little bit about the group. So Edenred is a French group headquartered in Paris. It's a global company, and they are predominantly known for being within the benefit space for employers. So employers looking to offer meal benefits and all kinds of other benefits outside of work in a sort of controlled environment to their employees. They are present in 20 plus countries worldwide, a very strong presence in Latin America. And so Edenred is mostly known for that. Really exciting is that Edenred also joined the CAC 40 in Paris, in the Paris Stock Exchange, which means that we're amongst the top 40 companies in France. But what not many people know is that Edenred as a group acts in multiple different areas. So as I mentioned, benefits is a large industry we're playing. We're amongst the leading companies in the space. We also acquired a HR tech company called Reward Gateway in the UK, and which is also increasing our footprint worldwide again. But we also act in different industries. So for example, we're also quite big in mobility, offering mobility solutions like EV charging and payments for fleets and so on and so forth. And then last but not least, which is the area we're in, we are within payments technology, within the acquiring and the issuing side. In the UK, we do predominantly payment solutions. So we enable clients to offer digital banking, embedded finance, and card-based solutions for their customers, almost like a white label solution. We provide a suite of functional APIs that enable access to the ecosystem of connections, including banking schemes, licenses, and banking solutions. So it's very fintechy. It's an area that we've been acting, I would say 15 plus years so far, originated in the UK, but it's still not as big as the benefits and the mobility business line that we have within Edenred. But there has been a lot of growth, as you may know, within fintech. So that's in a nutshell what we do at Edenred Payment Solutions in the context of Edenred.
Well, we're here to talk about marketing, and I kind of want to jump straight into that. When you were sort of giving us your intro and your journey so far, it was very, very clear that you've got, quite a bit of experience across different industries. I mean, how do you think that sort of background has influenced your approach to marketing as a whole, and then more specifically within the fintech sector at Edenred?
Yeah, no, it's been extremely, extremely helpful, I have to say, especially the fact that I had my first experience within consumer marketing, and that feels like ages ago, but that really gave me that sort of introduction as to how do you approach what are the basics of marketing, starting with consumer research, understanding the pain of the customer, understanding, how marketing can help address some of their problems and solve their problems. And regardless what product you sell, really, but really putting the customer first and being customer centric. And this is what I learned very early on in my career. And then obviously as it progressed, it was just interesting to apply that same thinking across the different industries that I was in. And I think the exciting part is, especially when you go into tech, for example, I marketed to different audiences in my career. I marketed to developers for many, many years. I marketed to HR people. I marketed to security, to fintech, to head of finance. So it's all different audiences. Ultimately, of course, they're people that we're marketing to, and they all have their goals and aspirations. But I think it helped sort of understanding these different profiles and see how marketing can best engage them. So I think that's probably what helped me the most in my career, to sort of understanding the first principles of marketing, which is essentially getting at the core of what the customers are actually challenged with and what problems they need to solve and how you can solve them for them and how you communicate it in a way that they will understand.
Edenred's going through a rebranding process at the moment. Has it been completed, or is it sort of still in process?
No. We definitely completed the first stage. And when we say Edenred, obviously it's not Edenred, the group. So the group has been Edenred already for a while, but specifically our sort of business unit, we call it, that is Edenred Payment Solutions. Before I joined, it was known as being PPS, short for prepaid solutions. And that's what we've been known for in the industry, especially in the UK, where we have, most of our clients. But as part of the changes that we made in the business, which is one, to align with the overall brand that is Edenred, and then also some organizational changes that we made to the business, basically moving some organizations into the group and then being stronger on the sort of commercial and go-to-market side of the business line. We understood that there was a need for a proper rebrand in terms of changing the name as sort of also a strong signal that there is change. We changed internally and externally. So that first iteration has been completed. We spent basically 6 months this year, having all these conversations and understanding, okay, where is everybody at? What are we going to call the business, and so on and so forth. And then finally, we launched it in June at Money 2020. And obviously, after that, there was still, a process of adjusting and educating the market and making sure that we're consistent, that PPS doesn't pop up as much. And I think that now we are at a very good place, that people are knowing us more for Edenred Payment Solutions, and we don't see the name PPS coming up as much.
Through that process, it kind of leads back to, your overarching marketing strategy. And I think it'd be great to understand, through your branding process, how have you tied that into the overarching marketing strategy, and how have you ensured that this sort of rebrand and the direction that you're heading in will ultimately resonate with your target customer?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I have to say that when I joined the company back in October 2022, I was surprised that a company that has been around, and by company, I mean Edenred Payment Solutions specifically as a business unit, that has been around for 15 plus years, that the marketing was not at the same level as the business and the size of the business. And it was very surprising in a way, because I thought, oh, wow, did you manage to grow the business without any sort of marketing? And yeah, when I joined, the brand was not aligned with Edenred. The messaging was not ideal. I thought there was a lot of confusion, even with some, customers, that they were not 100% clear what we did. It was just not great, right? So I think what we had to do early on was to basically build marketing from scratch, because whatever we had before just was not good enough, especially in the industry we're in. Super dynamic, lots of really cool companies out there doing great things. Some of these companies are been launched in the past few years, and they are having a lot more brand recognition than we have. And even though we have so many customers in our business, it's significant compared to some other players in the market. So it was my job sort of bringing them into the new age of fintech marketing. So the strategy really in the beginning was to build everything from the ground up, not only the brand identity and the name and, making sure that we were well positioned in the market, but also making sure that the messaging is right. It's customer centric. We talk to our customers to really understand how they understand what we do. And then finally, it was also about building the team, because, it was just not enough people to be able to execute and pull it off. In a nutshell, the overall strategy was to basically put us on the map again and ensure that it is aligned with Edenred as a larger group. And now we're going into the mode of, okay, how do we operationalize marketing with the brand that we have now, and ensuring that we have a good cadence and realign with the growth objectives.
Yeah, you've effectively established a baseline sort of mid-year with the rebrand rolling out, and you have that foundation in place. How has that influenced things like ongoing communications, ongoing marketing strategy? What does your marketing framework look like now in comparison to where it was before?
We're still working on a framework, I have to say, because as I mentioned, we were the first half a year pretty much trying to align ourselves on what it means to bring Edenred into the fintech space, because Edenred is mostly known for being a benefits company, very strong within the HR space. And then how do we translate the overall company values and brand into the fintech space that is very, very different, and also in a way that will still make us stand out and seem like, okay, we are competent in what we do for fintechs and neobanks that don't know anything about Edenred at all. So that was one part. And then the second part is to leverage our expertise. So being in the market for 15 plus years means that we have a lot of know-how, a lot of experience firsthand, pioneering programs that had never existed in the industry. We've been working with the regulators, the FCA, for many, many years. We have so much knowledge in-house, and the industry itself is very complex, especially as a newcomer. You can easily get confused about all these different players in the ecosystem and the technology and so on. So my job now is to sort of elevate that and scale that insights and expertise that we have in the company that we can share broadly with the industry to support our goal to be recognized as one of the more reliable and experienced partners in the space, right? So I don't think we have a framework yet in place, but we're working on it. But as I said, one of our key objectives is to bring us to this new phase where we are Edenred Payment Solutions and we grow the brand. But now we have to ensure that we are also part of the conversation, that we contribute to the industry, we contribute to the community with all the knowledge and know-how that we have in-house. And how can marketing play a role in that?
But one of the things you sort of mentioned was your company's experience having been in the market for quite some time. And knowing that you've kind of gone through this rebrand and you're sort of repositioning yourself, you mentioned about getting the word out and kind of want to talk a little bit about sort of content. It's a two-part question, really. How are you ensuring that the content that you're producing is aligning with your new brand or on your new positioning? And then how are you managing distribution of that content so it lands in front of the right people?
The beauty of this whole process of aligning the brand to Edenred is that we are fundamentally a tech company, What we do is very, very complex. It involves so much technical input, but what we care is the human side of it too. And that stems from the roots of Edenred being a benefits company and caring about employee benefits and all that stuff. So that was one key element of the rebrand, was to ensure that we bring that human side into the fintech brand that we are building with Edenred Payment Solutions. Unlike some of our competitors that rely very heavily on the tech side. And I would say, based on my personal observation, I see that some of them lack a little bit of that human aspect of the brand. And ultimately, yes, we are not necessarily consumer facing, because a lot of our customers are the ones delivering the products that get in the hands of people. But what we do ultimately is to serve people. We are helping some of the neobanks serve the underserved, marginalized people in society that normally don't get access to banking products through the high street banks or the retail banks, right? So this is a very powerful mission that we have, to impact people and having people in the heart of it. So this was a big part of the rebranding process. And then the other layer, when it comes to content, again, it goes into the space of not just being very vague or too complex around what we do as a technology, but actually trying and educate the space about the payments sort of universe, and all the different players and how it works, and being a thought leader in the space, but also communicating in a way that it really is accessible to people. And not just use all the jargon and the acronyms of the world that people kind of tend to do. So we're taking a different approach when it comes to content. I have to say, we are still not 100% there yet, because it also requires hiring people that can help us do that, because my team is still rather small. But in an ideal world, if we talked again in a year's time, I would be able to tell you, listen, this is how we managed to impact the industry by educating the audiences within fintech and payments about all these different things that are important to them.
It might be a little bit too early for you to perhaps comment on this, but it'd be interesting to kind of see, your initial thoughts. But in terms of measuring the impact of your rebrand, what are you looking at? What sort of KPIs are you looking at? And have you seen any sort of immediate impact in on the back of the rebrand at all?
I think in general is a little bit tricky to measure. I'm sure everybody will say the same. When it comes to brand, how you measure it, especially if you're a B2B brand, and in adding the layer that we're not really in the market broadly. We are sitting behind some of the larger brands, like, for example, Monese or Tide or Sainsbury's even, right? So a lot of times people don't actually know that we are the ones sitting behind these big brands when it comes to certain programs. For example, with Sainsbury's, we power their gift card programs, or with Monese, we do some of their banking. So as a brand itself, it's always a bit tricky to measure that, because inherently we're not really out there, and it's by design. But I do try to measure. So for example, we launched a new website. One key indicator is obviously the traffic the traffic development of the website. How has it grown ever since we launched a new website? But also when it comes to search, thinking, okay, how many people actually now search for Edenred Payment Solutions versus PPS, how we've been known before, or even as our entity name, which is Prepaid Technology. So that's also another indicator. And then I work also very closely with our sales team, especially when it comes to sharing feedback and experiences when they talk to clients or they go to events. And, I just remember when around the time we rebranded, I would talk to people about us being Edenred Payment Solutions, and most people would not know. And then I would say, well, probably you know us as PPS. And they say, oh, yeah, of course I know PPS. That conversation doesn't happen as much anymore, which is a good sign. I guess in a nutshell is one, ensuring that instead of being known as PPS, we are known for being EPS/Edenred Payment Solutions. But then the next thing is, okay, how do we grow Edenred Payment Solutions? Because even when we were just known as PPS, we were not very known at all. So how do we go from, okay, let's forget about PPS and be known for Edenred Payment Solutions, and how do we grow that brand beyond of what it was ever known before?
Any rebrand is always a really, really complex process. I mean, what would be your advice or key takeaways to, specifically obviously B2B brands that are looking to, embark on a rebranding process, or, who are considering it and thinking about what the benefits could be?
That's super key. I think when it comes to rebranding, there are many layers to it. Obviously, sometimes all you do is a brand refresh, even if technically you change a lot of your brand identity, but your name remains the same. In our case, it was a little bit more complex because it involved a change in the actual name of the business. So from that perspective, I guess you need to really take your time to understand the why you're doing this rebrand, why the old brand is no longer working, what are some of the changes that is needed to make the new brand more exciting, more interesting, and be just super clear across the board, not just with your team, but really all the leaders in the business. For example, in my case, there was another layer of complexity because it was not just with the team here in the UK, but also with our global headquarters in Paris, simply because they are the ultimate stakeholders when it comes to the Edenred brand. And then, it was always a bit tricky from my side to explain where it sort of deviates slightly to the overall Edenred brand, because unlike the other business units, we are within the fintech space, and there is a need for us to be more tech driven in our communications and our brand identity. So trying to get them in along the way, get them on board with the slight changes that need to be made when it comes to the overall brand. So all of this really requires a lot of prep work so that everything else that follows, it's clear to everybody, right? So aligning with the stakeholders, developing the solution together. But then when it comes to the actual identity, that's a super key one. I mean, working in marketing, I worked with so many different businesses that had very different brands. But what's really key is that the brand reflects the business and people identify themselves with the brand. I always find it tricky when you have a brand that is completely created in a vacuum within marketing and maybe a few others, and then the outcome is just not what people really thought the business to be. So that was why it was super important to have the elements of, okay, how do we identify ourselves? How do we act in the market? How do we communicate with our clients? How do we want to be perceived? So that was part of the sort of rebranding exercise when it came to, developing the new brand identity and the tone of voice and so on and so forth. In my case, I had to work with an agency who were incredibly helpful and great. In terms of values, we aligned pretty well, and they understood us right away, because I still had a really, really small team and we were not able to do it entirely on our own. So having that support, and then as soon as you have that identity, and also alongside the identity, we also needed to completely revamp our product messaging and positioning. So that also worked in the background as well, because those two things needed to come together as part of the relaunch. For example, that when we had the new website and changed all of our customer-facing materials and channels, it just needed to be entirely consistent, and people coming to us will then see the visible change in not just, making things prettier, but also seeing, okay, I got it. This is what they do, and this is what they don't do. And, and I get it. And I can tell it's different now. And Lastly, what I will also say is that not just engaging with your external stakeholders, but also obviously advocating for the brand internally, making sure that people understand what's happening when, and really getting your champions in place that can help you make sure that people are following the new brand and the people are engaging with the new brand, that they identify with the new brand as well.
You were talking about the sort of individual product lines and the messaging for the product lines. I think it'd be great to just sort of dig a little bit deeper into that. Obviously, fintech, as you said, it's a very technical space, and therefore, you've got the element of needing to convey what your product does, but also demonstrating, I suppose, technical expertise as well at the same time. Can you kind of talk us a little bit more through that sort of process? How did the brand, the rebranding impact that? And then, what were the steps that you took to adjust that messaging and I suppose manage your product messaging and your product marketing? Was there any sort of customer research conducted? What did that process look like?
So when I joined, we did have a website, and this website basically just listed our capabilities. They just threw terms around bin sponsorship and confirmation of pay and card issuing. And and it's all stuff that we do, but it was just not put in a context. And I think to think about what we do is we provide the building blocks for fintechs and banking companies to build their own solutions. And this is basically the beauty of the business. So what was important as part of the rebrand is to group these building blocks together in products that made sense to our customers, our clients. We bucket some of these products into things like accounts and payments, card issuing, processing, and other complementary services, so that when someone is evaluating a solution, they know right away, okay, I'm trying to launch an accounts program. Okay, so I know that Edenred Payment Solutions do that. But within that, that's when you can dive deeper and understand exactly what that means in terms of building blocks. Because when it comes to payments, you can do a lot of the things, but you also need to have the connections to other players in order to enable more of the solutions. What's also interesting about what we do is a lot of these building blocks can be assembled in different ways where it serves different use cases. So we like to say multi-product or vertical solutions. So we power different use cases. So for example, we do embedded finance, we do B2B payments, digital banking, and other card services like gift cards. So then again, we regroup these products, or let's say building blocks, into the different use cases that are most common and most asked for right now. And then ultimately, the last layer that we added as part of the whole positioning and the messaging was to then add the different industries that we serve. Because, for example, we do have some products that are very good for the travel industry. So, for example, our virtual card solutions or multi-currency cards and so on. So, for example, someone evaluating us, then they can go into travel as an industry to then understand exactly what we do. And then they can obviously dive deeper into exactly the building blocks that go into these things. The reason why we did that is obviously it is kind of stemming a bit from the SaaS, let's say, marketing playbook, so to say, because within SaaS it's very common to have different use cases for the product that you sell, and sort of addressing those and putting your product more in a different context to serve the different audiences. But then it was super key to be customer centric here. And what we did was we did talk to a lot of our customers and prospects to get to the core of it. And I think we must have had more than 30 hours of conversations with our audiences to come to this place we're in now. And also, last but not least, what I will say is that from a go-to-market perspective, we build our teams, specifically our business development and our sales team, also in line with these different verticals. Because when you operate in a specific vertical, let's say you are in the retail vertical, addressing companies looking to provide things like gift cards and so on, it's a very different space to, let's say, the banking vertical, right? Whereas completely different players, completely different audiences. So here it's important that whoever is selling into these verticals truly understands the pain points and the industry, the different players, because we might compete with different companies in those spaces, and marketing is providing that framework for them.
You kind of mentioned in a year's time, you'll be a little bit more fleshed out, the framework be sort of more in place. I mean, from your perspective, what does success look like for you, say, in a year's time? Where would you like Edenred to be from a marketing perspective?
So I like to say that 2023 was the year that we were building the foundation. And I like to think of marketing almost like a little growth factory. And where we started in the beginning of the year was basically the foundation of that factory. And now we're at the point where we have already a factory in place, but we still haven't quite got to a place where we have a product sort of like assembly line in place that is continuous and putting output at the end of it. We already have the machinery in place. By that, I mean, of course, having tools in place that enables us to scale marketing, dashboards, and so on and so forth. But now we need to have the plans to then start executing on these things in a regular cadence, to then start seeing the growth coming in and the results. So this is where we're at the moment, and we're just about to finalize our plans for 2024, where we have a consistent sort of multi-channel marketing plan in place. And by that I mean, thinking about all the content that we want to put out next year in line with the different verticals that we serve, and ensure that everybody that works in these verticals have what they need to get out in the market and engage. Working on the website as well to see how we can improve our traffic and our search results, and social media as well. Keep growing that, to keep working on the brand awareness piece. And then thinking about other ways that we can engage, right? So if it is in PR or events that we do, and just be consistently present in the industry across different channels, so that we keep top of mind when companies are looking to bring a new partner to bring these programs to life.
Amazing. Raquel, it's been great speaking with you. Before I let you go, I'll take you through our quick fire round. What podcasts are you listening to at the moment?
I love the 11FS podcast. It's a very great one, especially if you are into fintech. It's a really good listen.
Yeah, Fintech Insider is always a pretty common one from our guests. Other than Edenred, what's your favorite fintech brand, company, or app?
Form 3 is definitely one of my favorites. I think they do a really good job. I really like their content. But also Clearbank. Clearbank is really good too.
And then what books are you currently reading, or would you recommend to our audience? And then last but not least, what's one thing that I haven't asked you that I perhaps should have?
No, I think you asked me pretty much everything that I can think of. You asked me about branding, you asked me about product marketing, and I think you covered it very well, actually.
Amazing. Well, as I said before, Raquel, been great speaking with you. Thank you very much for your time today. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Shamir.
The FML podcast is brought to you by Growth Gorilla. To find out how our marketing growth experts can boost your fintech's growth, head to growthgorilla.co.uk. And make sure to search for the FML podcast in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Don't forget to click follow to ensure you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Growth Gorilla, thanks for listening.